I want you to close your eyes for a second and just listen. Can you hear it? That frantic drumbeat, the jingle of coins, and that terrifying screech of something right on your heels. If you had a smartphone practically glued to your hand between, say, 2011 and 2013, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In classrooms, on the train, in cafeterias, everywhere you looked, people were running. That feeling, that was Temple Run. It was one of the most ridiculously addictive mobile games ever made. And it wasn't just for, gamers. It was for absolutely everyone. But here's the thing. The game that taught an entire generation that the real thrill isn't in winning, but in just running a little bit longer, how did it get so completely outrun itself? So today, we're going to trace that whole story. We'll start with a couple's creative gamble, how a breakthrough was born from a total failure, what it was like to catch lightning in a bottle, how they eventually got outpaced by the competition, and of course, the incredible legacy of the run. Now, our story doesn't start in some flashy, high-tech gaming studio. Nope, it starts with a husband and wife team, Keith Shepard and Natalia Lukyanova. They had good, stable jobs, but they were making software for hospitals. It was fine, but it wasn't scratching that creative itch they both had. Say, Keith was a huge Apple fan and a bit of a hobbyist game developer. So back in 2008, when Apple announced this brand new thing called the App Store, they saw their opening. And they didn't just dip a toe in, they went all in and quit their jobs. Their very first game, a little word puzzle called Imangi, actually did pretty well. It brought in $5,000 in its first month. Then, after a few other attempts, they launched a game in 2009 called Harbor Master, and that was a real hit, pulling in over $100,000. They knew they were onto something, but they also knew their art needed a serious upgrade. So they hired their very first employee, an artist named Kirill Chingov. The team was now a grand total of 3 people. All right, so with this new artist on board, the tiny team of 3 decided it was time to go big. They poured all their time, all their money into their next project, a game called Max Adventure. This was going to be their breakout hit. Except it wasn't. At all. I mean, the visuals were great, really appealing to kids, but the game was a total flop. And the reason was pretty simple. It was just way too complicated. Players would get confused and frustrated trying to figure out what to do, and they'd just quit. It was a commercial disaster. But sometimes your biggest failure can become your greatest teacher. As Keith and Natalia were sifting through the wreckage of this failed game, they noticed something really interesting. There was this one tiny moment, this one little action in the game that players seemed to find super satisfying. The simple act of collecting a coin, that little ding. And that single simple insight, well, that was the seed for everything that came next. They decided their next game had to be simple, like dead simple. No complex instructions, the core idea, an endless runner. Just go. Kirill, the artist, saw a really basic prototype, and he suggested the setting that would define everything. An ancient temple deep in a scary, mysterious jungle. Okay, cool, but why are we running? Well, to give you a reason, they came up with a little story. You're an explorer, and you've just stolen a precious idol. But that begs the question, if you're running from something, what is it? At first, they thought about something like a giant rolling boulder, very Indiana Jones. But Kirill pushed for something more alive, something genuinely terrifying. Devil monkeys. He designed these creepy creatures with these haunted, glowing eyes. And this is a great little window into their creative process, because Natalia was seriously worried they were too scary. She thought people would be too afraid to even play. But Kirill insisted, no, the fear is part of the fun. He won that argument, and the iconic devil monkeys were born. So on August 4th, 2011, Temple Run goes live on the App Store. And at first, it's a huge success. The reviews are great, downloads are climbing, but then, just a few weeks in, the numbers start to fall. In the mobile gaming world, this is what they call the death spiral. Once a game starts sliding down the charts, it's almost impossible to recover. And here was the problem. The game wasn't free. It cost 99 cents, and in the ridiculously fast-paced world of mobile apps, that tiny price tag was becoming a massive barrier. With their dream game dying, Keith and Natalia knew they had to do something drastic. So in December of 2011, they made this huge, incredibly risky pivot. They just removed the price tag, made Temple Run completely free. The hope was that they could make money from in-app ads instead. They were basically betting the entire company on getting more eyeballs on the game, even if none of those people paid a single cent upfront. And that gamble, oh my God, it paid off in a way they could have never, ever imagined.
The moment the game went free, downloads didn't just go up, they exploded. It was like a dam breaking. The game shot up the charts like a rocket and eventually became the #1 free app on iOS.
Temple Run wasn't just a game anymore. It was a global sensation. When the Android version launched in March 2012, it hit 1 million downloads in just 3 days. By its first anniversary, it had crossed 100 million total downloads. And get this stat is just insane. Altogether, players had logged over 54,000 years of gameplay time. It became a pop culture icon, even leading to collaborations with Disney for special Brave and Oz-themed versions of the game. But as we all know, nothing stays at the top forever. At the absolute peak of its success, players started to notice something. The game, for all its heart-pounding thrills, was kinda repetitive. Run, turn, jump, die, repeat. The very core loop that made it so addictive was also slowly becoming its biggest weakness. And then, in 2012, a new challenger stepped into the ring: Subway Surfers. It was a totally different vibe. Where Temple Run was dark and jungly, Subway Surfers was bright, colorful, and set in these vibrant cities. And while Temple Run always felt a little static, Subway Surfers had a world tour feature, with a brand new city to explore every single month. Imangi Studios was proud of being a small, creative team, but that also meant they simply couldn't push out new updates as fast as their new, much larger competitor. And so, the slow decline began. The repetitive gameplay just led to player fatigue. Then, this more dynamic, more colorful competitor came and stole the spotlight. By 2018, it was official. Subway Surfers had taken the crown as the world's most downloaded mobile game. The market also got totally flooded with endless runner clones, which diluted what made Temple Run so special in the first place. Imangi tried to innovate with VR and puzzle spin-offs, but they just couldn't recapture that original magic. So, is that the end of the story? A game that just faded away? Well, not exactly. Because the impact of Temple Run is so much bigger than its download numbers, it basically defined an entire genre and proved to the world that a tiny team with a simple idea could conquer the world. But more than that, it left us with a powerful idea, a feeling that really became a part of our culture. It wasn't about reaching an end or getting some final victory screen. The real joy, the real thrill, was just in seeing if you could survive for one more second. Run just a little bit further than you did last time. Which leaves us with this one last, kind of ironic question. For a game that was all about the endless chase, a game that taught millions of us the value of endurance, what happens when the world simply learns how to run faster than you do?